Romans 15:13 says that God is the God of all hope. A lot of times I'm walking around telling people I'm a hope dealer, and they have shirts that actually say that. And he's the only true hope that we can find in the midst of even the most difficult circumstances. You have an amazing story, but before we get into the story, John, just give us a little bit of idea of who you are and what you actually do now in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised in El Paso, moved out here in about 2010. I'm in real estate, so help with everything from buying, selling, investing, lending private money for investing properties. Now I am just helping people discover their purpose and identity, helping them with emotional healing, physical healing, and yeah, my story is just a story of forgiveness and hope.
Wow, it's quite a story. I know your story, so I'm going to ask you this question. John, how did you overcome the most incredibly difficult circumstance in your life? I know you've shared it with me, but let's talk about it again. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you dealt with it, and then we'll go from there. It's a crazy story.
It is crazy. So like I said, we moved out here in about 2010. And man, just...
You moved from where?
I'm sorry, from El Paso to Dallas, Fort Worth. And...
Did God tell you to move here?
He did.
I think you told me that God told you to move here. So you're moving here, believing you're following the Lord, right? And then,
because
just go from there.
we had been in El Paso and did relatively well financially, but then the market started crashing, right, being in real estate.
That was 2008.
That was 2008. So really it was 2009, the end of 2009 that we get out here again, thinking that things were going to be better. Felt the Lord tell me and my wife at the time, both separately, yes, Dallas is where you're supposed to be.
So you're a father. You have
girls.
How many kids?
Two girls.
Two girls, and you're married at the time.
Correct.
And you both think that you heard from the Lord to move from El Paso to the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we move out here, and instead of things getting better, it just got terrible, man. It was really the worst situation in my life. Just, just some stuff that she did with the marriage and stuff like that. It just really... Man, I don't know. Like here we are thinking financially we're going to be better, right? And everything just went worse. And so anyways, long story short, I end up coming home to an empty house. She took the kids, took everything, wiped out the bank account, filed taxes, right? Got $8,000 behind my back. Here we are financially hurting. Right. And so anyways, just being crushed, bro. It's really physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was crushed on every level.
So you came home from work, you're in a difficult situation with the market. You're doing your best to try to make it work. Things aren't going well, and you come home, and I mean, the house is just vacated. I think you told me she left you a mattress and a few other small things.
Twin mattress, the kids' twin mattress.
Oh wow.
Yeah, man. And so, honestly, at that point, Keith, I come home, and I am just I'm in shock. After I walk around the apartment and see that I just have a twin mattress on the floor, they're gone. I'm devastated. That pretty much changes into being really mad at God.
Well, yeah, you turned to God.
Yeah.
You did turn to God, but not in the right way, and you told me about that.
No, man, I did. Like I said, I just, for those that have experienced this, I mean, literally just being 100% real, I was pissed off because God had told us, right? We felt God had told us to move out here, all that kind of stuff, and it's like, this is not what was supposed to, at least I didn't think was supposed to happen. So I go to bed that night very, very upset at God, and I'm pretty much yelling at him saying, I better have a dream.
Right.
I better have a vision. You better write on the wall, like that story in the Bible, right? Where they're having that party and the king that God starts writing on the, literally, man, I was just at my wit's end. So I go.
So in other words, you're really upset. You have your Lieutenant Dan moment with the Lord, right? Very. And then basically you're telling God the who tos and what fors. And it better be this way or what?
Exactly. Or I don't know. I didn't get that far. I was just so mad, bro. I was just like, because again, right, it goes back to expectations. This is not what I was expecting. And here's the other thing, I'll be honest with you, bro. We were both Christians.
Yeah.
So with her doing what she did, I'm just like, how?
Right.
That's just where I was at. Now I understand a lot more. But at that time, I'm like, how? Like, she's a Christian.
You know what's interesting about that is I found that Satan's a dead raiser too. We're called to raise the dead, but I find so many times that he's trying to raise that old man back to life. And man, if we don't keep our hearts right and stay close to Jesus, man, it can happen to anybody. So that's an amazing lesson.
Yes. So I go to bed crying that night, dude, and I wake up the next morning, right? And I wake up, and I'm not gonna lie, like I woke up and I was surprised I was alive. Like the way I talked to God, I literally remember touching my chest. I looked out the window, and I'm just like, immediately I just asked for forgiveness. I said, Lord, I'm sorry for talking to you like that, right? Because I literally woke up, looked at the window, looked at the wall. There was nothing written. I didn't have a dream. So I get up, I ask for forgiveness. I'm walking around the apartment, and I had always kind of felt called to the ministry, bro. I've had some situations where I've been at church and healing evangelists pulled me up on stage and had me praying for people and they got slain in the spirit, all kinds of stuff, right? So there was always that, but I was a businessman. And even before we left to Dallas, dude, I forgot to tell you this point. This is important. God had shown me 3 different times a dream where I was standing on stage, and it was weird because the stage was curved. I'd never seen one like that before. And it was there was probably like thousands of people in the audience, right? And so anyways, after the 3rd time of having that, this is before we moved to Dallas. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning. I leaned over to my wife at the time and I said, Kelly, I think I'm called to ministry. And she goes, what? So I tell her about this dream. I said, I know it sounds crazy, but this is the 3rd time I've had it and I'll never forget. She just kind of laughs at me and goes, you a pastor? There's no way. You're great at making money, and gets out of bed. So honestly, at that point, Keith, I just go, yeah, you know what? It's probably the pizza I ate last night, right? That's why I had that dream, and just brushed it off. So now fast forward to that morning, I asked for forgiveness. Yeah. I'm like, okay, Lord, I kind of felt like I've always been kind of called to ministry, even though I don't understand that. How? Here I am. I have nothing.
But you had an encounter with God that night. You told me about. Tell me about that encounter.
Dude, that was huge. So again, just all day getting in the Word, praying. So I come out of the master bedroom, and I'm sitting there. I have my eyes closed. I have my arms out, right, and I'm just praying. And as I'm praying, I have my eyes closed, and about where the camera is, about 10 feet away, I have my eyes closed. She appears to me, right? Kelly's standing there. And it startles me. I wasn't afraid, but it's like, what the heck, right? So I have my eyes closed, and I'm crying because I've been just talking to God. And I see her standing there. She's not saying nothing. She's just looking at me. And I'm like trying to take this in, and I hear, forgive her. And I got ready to say, I even kind of chuckled like that. And I was like, are you kidding me? And that's all I got out. And then he said it again, more stern, forgive her.
Wow.
Bro, at that point, I had nothing to lose.
It's interesting about that. Forgiveness is one of these issues that I forgave the guy that killed my son, as you know. And when I minister at churches, honestly, it's about 1/3 when I do a forgiveness altar call of the church that's struggling on forgiveness. And I think what happens is we get back right with God, and it's not long till we become the other brother in the prodigal son story, and we just forget just how much we've been forgiven.
Yeah.
And the Lord's like, you need to forgive. So, yeah, that's a powerful
So let me add
story.
something, bro. The second part of this vision. So I see her, I forgive her, and all of a sudden, bro, I have this love for her that I can't even explain.
Right.
Like I am wanting to make coffee for her in the morning, and even though I was already doing that stuff, it was just weird. This new love,
but she's not there, right?
No, I have my eyes closed. It's a vision, bro. Right. She's standing there, still not saying nothing, even after I forgave her. But dude, the love I had for her was intense, right? And then all of a sudden, I see something out of my peripheral. I'm looking at her, right? Eyes closed. She's standing there. I see something kind of in this vision moving so I look to my left, still with my eyes closed. And it's like if you're in Chicago or New York City, you're in the end of an alley. And you have the walls, and then you see the sidewalk. It's just a ton of people walking by. And I'm like, what the heck? And I look back. She's still standing there. And I'm like, okay, I understand why she's here. Why are all these people here? So I start looking. Do I know these people? No, I don't know any of them. All of a sudden, the love I had for her, I now had for these people. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. 2 seconds later, I cared about every single one of their souls. I didn't want them to go to hell. And then it hits me. Bro, this is God's love that he just dropped in me. And bro, the apartment, the best way I can explain it is like a sauna. It was very humid in there, bro. And those words don't even do it justice. But to me, that was like the tangible love of God. And bro, so now I have a love for people that doesn't make sense.
That's pretty incredible. And we want to talk about your church experience. But when you think about that, the love that God had for us, I mean, the cross is a central theme. And man, if we don't have the Father's heart for the lost,
that's it, dude.
We don't really have the Father's heart, do we? And when he gave that to you supernaturally, that's pretty amazing. So tell me about the situation that you had when you felt that you needed to go to church.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into you. I want you to share with
me. So a little bit after that, right? So now I'm just like, okay, Lord, you got me. Because here's the weirdest thing, Keith, is being a business guy, busy, all that stuff. After she left and separation and all that, bro, it was weird. The biggest thing I got was time.
What does that mean? Because that's interesting you said that. You said the other day, but it's funny because time's the only thing that we really don't get more of in one sense, right? I mean, you can make more money, you can do a lot of things, but man, we have an appointed time. We have so much time. What does that mean? Explain
So for
that
me,
to
brother, it goes back to the responsibilities I had as a husband and as a worker, right? So I was working crazy hours, getting off at 9 p.m. I'd come home and spend time with the kids. So it's not like I was going to the clubs, chasing women. Like I felt doing the right thing, right? With my family, pouring into them, all that kind of stuff. So now that they're out of the picture, I remember the first day leaving work, and literally I put the key in the deadbolt and locked the office. As I was pulling it out, I remember thinking, there's no one at home. I could literally go anywhere right now. And that's when it kind of hit me like, dude, I have time. So I would go home, no one to talk to, right? And it's just, that's when I realized, dude, I have time. Well, that's when I
got you.
Jumped into the Bible. And not only did I start reading it for myself, I started studying it.
So what God was teaching you is you only have so much time, but what you were doing with that time was beginning to change and make all the difference in your life.
Brother, not only
Man,
that,
that's so good.
Supernaturally, I don't know how this happened, but he pretty much removed everyone from my life.
Right.
Friends, right, going forward. And it was crazy, Keith, because it was nuts. Like I literally had no one, but looking back on it, I had God. And that's what he was showing me, bro, is like, I'm here for you. And literally there's so many times I'd be just crying out to him, just being like, it's just you and me, Lord.
So back to the story about the church. Were you not going to church at
I was
that
not.
time?
We were
so
not.
You weren't, and then all of a sudden you felt like you were
Felt the Lord
supposed to go
say,
to church.
you need to find a church. So anyways, it's been a while. She's out of the house. I'm driving home. It's a Wednesday night. I'm driving home from Addison, right? So I'm like I told you, it felt like when you're working out and you're very thirsty, almost dehydrated, how you feel. That's how I felt for the word. And so I'm like, I have to get into a church tonight. I'm like, it's Wednesday. This is the Bible Belt. There has to be a church somewhere between now and me going home, which was about 45 minutes away.
Was this before the Gateway experience?
Yes, this is before Gateway.
Right.
And so I'm just like, okay, man, I got to do something. So anyways, I go down and I'm driving down the road and I see the Potter's house on the right-hand side. Wednesday night, I'm like, they have to have service. I pull in. They don't have a service. They have like 10 little Bible studies. They give you a sheet to pick which one. I just kind of look. One jumped out at me. I go into that one. And this is the one where they wash my feet.
Well, they had someone wash your feet. And then what did the Lord speak to you when you were getting your feet washed?
So what's interesting, while actually they're washing it, I hear him say, I want you to wash Kelly's feet. And I was just like,
Hold on. So you're getting your feet washed. Kelly is your wife, your ex-wife, is not living with you, right? And you're supposed to wash her feet, but yet she doesn't want anything to do with you.
Correct.
So how did you make that happen, or did it happen?
It did. So I'm confused while this is happening, but I've just learned, bro, through all of this, like, just to be obedient. So I'm like, okay, well, if God really said this, then she might let it happen. So anyways, I just reached out to her, and I didn't say, hey, I want to wash your feet. I just said, hey, can we get together so we can talk? And so anyway, she said yes, comes over to the apartment. And I just told her, I said, look, this is going to be maybe kind of weird, but I just feel I'm supposed to do this. So I just went and got a big Tupperware thing and started washing her feet.
So she was resistant to that at first, or
no, dude, she started crying.
So while you're washing feet, she's crying.
She's crying.
Okay, so this is interesting. So you wash her feet, and did you guys get back together for a bit?
We did.
Was that after the foot washing?
I chased her for about 6 months. Yeah,
okay.
After the foot washing, maybe 2 months after that, we got back together.
So you got back together, and it happened again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she left again.
Yeah. Came home to an empty house twice.
Yeah. So now that's really what I'm after here. Not that it's a horrible story.
Oh, it sucks.
But how did you navigate through, not just once, but twice? What had God done in your life? How did you really navigate through that? And what did you learn from that?
I started having experiences with God, so he became more real to me, right? So, for example, I remember one day during all this, sometimes you wake up, you're kind of stretching in bed, and your calf starts cramping. It started cramping, and I felt it kind of cramping, and I heard the Lord say, speak to it and tell it to stop. Bro, I'd never done that before. So I did. I spoke to it, and it stopped. So I started having little experiences like that where God became more real to me. For example, after she left, she moved in with a friend, put all our stuff in the garage. Her and my 2 daughters were sleeping in their guest room in a queen-size bed. I go get an apartment. My buddy's a leasing agent, so I go to get a 1-bedroom. And as I'm driving there, I hear the Lord say, get a 2-bedroom. And I'm like, why would I get a 2-bedroom? I have no money, right? At this point, my vehicle's been reput. Like, it's terrible. So anyways, I get there and I tell my buddy Ruben, hey, I need to look at a 2-bedroom. So he's like, what? So the whole time we're looking at apartments, he's talking me out of the 2-bedroom. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. It was an extra $300, Keith. So long story short, I end up getting the 2-bedroom. He's irritated me with me, my buddy. And so anyways, I end up getting the 2-bedroom because later on she tells me, hey, if you love us, you'll move out of the apartment and give us the apartment. Let us move in here because we're staying with my friend's guest room and still pay all the bills. All my friends are like, that is crazy. You better not do that. But you know what? When I was praying, bro, God's like, do it.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is more from an emotional perspective, right, is how that you dealt with, the disappointment, right? And I know God's speaking to you, but what was he leading you to in the Word? Like, what was really the thing that was helping you keep going? Where was your hope anchored?
My hope was in him, bro, because at that point, I didn't know whether she was coming back or not, right? So I had to put all my trust, all my hope, really, bro, all my emotions in God, right? Because I learned that our emotions are not truth always.
Right.
And so I just learned to really 100% trust on God, be obedient. And that's what helped me do, because literally he was guiding me every step of the way as far as forgiving her. Do this, don't do that. And I was doing stuff.
So how long was this process until you finally ended up getting divorced? What are we talking here? A year, 2 years?
When she left the second time, it took about a year and a half to officially get divorced.
So you got divorced. So now you're divorced, right? And you're getting a lot of advice from a lot of friends telling you what you need to do.
Right.
To replace her,
Yep.
and what you need to do to fulfill your life.
Yep.
And I think one of the things about your story that's incredible is you have, and I know this about you, you have been celibate now for how many years?
Probably about 8-9 years.
8-9 years.
Yeah.
Now that is something that I just think is incredible, that God did something in you that you're able to walk that out. Talk a little bit about that, what that's been like.
Yeah, man, that, again, wasn't always celibate, right? Just messing around, doing stuff I shouldn't do, but then just the conviction. And again, hearing from God so clearly, one, I knew it was wrong. But when he's just like, literally like a father, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
So initially, when it happened, you weren't
Correct.
being celibate.
Correct.
So initially you did what a lot of people do.
Yep.
Sin against you produces sin in you, but then you have another encounter with God.
Correct.
And then and that's been, would you say how many years?
About 8 years.
About 8 years since when you messed up a little bit. 8 years, that's amazing, John.
Well, and not only that, again, right, being part of a certain ministry that it was called the prophetic ministry. One of the guys, one of the Saturdays comes out and say, hey, bro, I really have a word of God. And God had already been telling me, like, he's coming after you. The enemy's coming after your purity. You
Right.
have to stay pure. Keith, there was a time, bro, in 2017, I love to cook. And when I'm cooking, I have my music on. And I have my playlist. I'm, cutting up food, and I hear this song come on. And it's not, I wouldn't say like a very sexual song, but I heard the Lord say, delete that song. And it was like one of my favorite songs. And I was like, I just kind of ignored him. About 6 months later, he did it again. And so at that point, I did delete it, right?
Wow.
So all along the path, bro, that happened. This guy comes up to me and says, hey, dude, I just have a word. Like, the Lord is saying, like, the enemy is coming after your purity.
Yeah.
So to me, that was confirmation. So I'm having stuff like this happen to me, bro, where it was just like, because sometimes you hear stuff and like, was that God? Was it not God? I don't know.
Sure.
Because you can justify it. Like, I'm a man, I have needs.
Sure.
I was married, all that. But I just chose to just try to walk the path of purity. And yeah, dude, it's just.
So, but the question is, how has that been for you? I mean, I know you well enough to know that you seem pretty content and happy in the Lord in your celibacy and your purity.
Yeah.
So what does that look like to those people out there who don't understand what it can be like? Some people would say, I can't do it. You don't understand. I have needs or whatever. And it just begins to be that kind of thing. So I really want to end with that, if you know what I mean. So we can just wrap that up and go like, man, what does it look like? Man, I honestly, when I read about the brothers in the book of Revelations, right, that haven't defiled themselves with women, and two of my heroes are Uriah, right, who didn't sleep with Bathsheba, and Joseph. If I'd have been in that Bible story the way I lived my life, I wouldn't have made it. I'd have been killed. I'd have been in prison, been beheaded. But God's restored me. So that's just, I love that about people, man.
Right.
And obviously now, if I had to do it again, I'd be way different. But that's,
So to answer that question,
really clear.
So it's crystal clear, bro. So in Thessalonians, it says that we are whole being is spirit, soul, and body.
Yeah.
Spirit,
Yeah.
soul, mind, will, and emotions, and body. That's the pecking order. That's the hierarchy. So my body is at the very bottom. So I've learned that through experience, again, started with speaking to my calf, that my body has to listen to me, right? And just going and having the experiences I had with God and the little tapping on like, hey, man, shouldn't be talking to that girl.
Yeah, but there's something that you just said that I think that you would agree with what I'm about to say is when you talk about the mind, because you now, with the time that you've been given, have had the ability to renew your mind with the washing of God's word, and you absolutely know that it's true. He's not a man that he should lie. So through that, you've been able to understand and allow the Holy Spirit to empower that in your life to be able to live in a way that you were never able to be lived before.
Well, and to that point, bro, that's where you asked me about, hey, what's this mental bouncer thing? Through that, I learned that when I have these thoughts of, hey, call so-and-so for a booty call.
Right.
Hey, call so-and-so for this. Like, I know if I called them, they would show up.
Sure.
But it was me understanding, where did that thought come from?
Wow.
Right? My favorite verse is John 10:10. The thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Right.
Jesus speaking, I've come to give you life more abundantly. Any thought that has to do with killing, stealing, or destroying is from the enemy.
Yeah, but what you said is really important, John. You've learned how to take those thoughts captive.
That's it, bro.
Right. And so what I'm thinking here is that what has God given you back that's far better in return than what you've given up?
The peace, bro.
The peace.
The peace. So a lot of the stuff you were asking about, right? The Bible says basically, right, in our weakness, he's made strong, right? So as far as strength and peace and all that, he'll give us a peace that passes all understanding. That's the verse. My John Peterson translation, I'm going to have peace when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And bro, that's what happened.
That's really good.
Bro, I was crushed. How am I having peace?
Right.
How am I having, right? But again, with turning to the Lord, and when those thoughts or emotions would come, bro, I truly believe that thoughts and emotions are from the spiritual realm and that we have authority over them. Jesus said we did. Right. So when all that would start coming at me, bro, I would rebuke it. I would speak to it in the name of Jesus because I do pray from a position of power and authority.
And Jesus did the same thing when the devil came at him with the word.
Yeah.
He answered with the word. And if you know the word, this is my disciple, and you are truly a disciple that abides in my word. They'll know the truth will set them free. Anything that doesn't keep you in freedom is designed by the enemy to take you away from the real purpose, calling, and destiny that you have.
Yes.
And you're one that I could say that has really been walking out the calling that God has in his life. And I just want to commend you, John. Thank you so much for just taking time to be here with us today.
I appreciate it, bro. It hasn't been easy, but I want to encourage everyone that it is possible.
Amen.